What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Happy 4th of July. And I wanted to do just a quick video. We're going to talk about the calendar. I'm also going to do the Social Security payout calendar for July. Now, I've done a video. I did a video last month about this, and people really liked it for whatever reason. Most people know when they're getting their checks, but I guess it's good, just more reinforcement. And they can kind of look at the calendar. We can kind of talk about it together. So I'm going to do that again in this video. And then the other part of the calendar that I really want to focus on is the what's been going on, the calendar of events when it comes to legislation. So we're going to take a look at that. But first off, on this channel, we talk about money and the financial struggles that Americans are facing today. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so let's get right over to our calendar here. And we'll start with the payout schedule. Okay. Now I know for a lot of people, they already know when they're getting, when they'll be receiving their checks. If you're receiving Social Security, SSI, SSDI. Okay. So we're just going to go over this very briefly. This is for July. And I realize since it's already the 4th of July, some people have already received their checks, but I just wanted to make sure I went over it. I actually forgot to do it before like at the very end of June. So what I'll start doing, if you guys like videos like this, give the video a thumbs up and I'll know that. And then I'll start doing it at the very end. So it'll be the very end of July. I'll do it for August. And then same thing with August, the very end of August, I'll do it for September. Okay. So just looking at our calendar really quickly, the first thing I want to show you guys down here is this is just basically what all these colors and everything mean. Okay. So, basically SSI here, it will be in this color here. So when we're looking at the first of the month, that's when those checks will go out for SSI. Now also we have people, if you received your Social Security checks before 1997, then you fall in that category where you have the blue here. So that'd be on the first, as well as if you are receiving both Social Security and SSI. Okay, so Social Security, SSI goes out on the first, Social Security goes out on the third. But in this situation, because of the holiday and everything, the first is when you should have received your check. So if you have not received your check, then you want to make sure you follow up on that and follow up with the Social Security Administration. Okay, now let's move forward just a little bit here. People that were born between the 1st and the 10th of July, you're going to receive your checks on the 13th. If you were born on the 11th, between the 11th and the 20th, or if your birthday lies between the 11th and the 20th, if you want to look at it that way, you're going to receive your checks on the 20th, as well as if you were, if your birthday is between the 21st and the 31st, that is the 4th installment, and then you will receive your check on the 27th. And so that's what the calendar looks like for Social Security payout, okay? Now, let's get to what I really want to discuss today, because I think this is very important for us to look at what legislation has been done. Where is Congress right now? Congress is on a recess, but we want to know when they come back, and then when they go back on another recess, because that's very important for us to kind of figure out what legislation can get done while they're in session. Okay, so we know we have good news here. The gun safety legislation, they did pass that. Okay, so that's something that's off the table now, and that's good, because as long as that was on the table, I think that was going to take priority just because of the recent events. So that's something that we don't have to, Congress doesn't have to focus on anymore, which means that they can start focusing on some of these other things. We know inflation is just, it's horrible right now. And so that is one thing that they will be focused on, let's hope, in July. Okay. And even before we get into all of the, what they could be focused on, let's look at July here. Okay. So let's look at this whole calendar here. Now, July, we're looking at July 4th right now. It's a holiday. We look at this, the rest of the week, they will be on recess. Okay. And the Senate will return on the 11th. Okay. So the Senate will return on the 11th. So that's next week, Monday. That's good. And then the House will return on the 12th. So both the Senate and the House will be in session from the 12th through the 15th for that week. And then they will continue in session until the 21st. And when I say they, I mean both the House and the Senate. Now, the House will have a brief recess here on the 22nd, and the 25th. Okay, so that they'll have a long weekend there. All right. Now, when I say recess, I do want you guys to understand that recess means they're going back to their home districts, and they are their whole job is to represent the American people and represent their district. And so when they go back to their districts, they have town hall meetings and they do things to try to find out what is needed in their districts. So that's what a recess is. Now, some politicians take an opportunity at that point to take vacations and things like that if they need to, because you have to understand, if you're in D.C., you're required to be there because you're going to have to vote on bills. So when they have their recess, that's the real opportunity for them to kind of step away if they want to and take a vacation if they want to do that. But when we hear recess, I know everyone says they're going on recess all the time. They're not working. They are supposed to be working, but that's not always the case. Let's just say that. Okay. All right. So we're looking at the calendar, the 22nd, 25th. That's when the House will be on recess, and the Senate will still be there. So the Senate will be there on the 22nd and the 25th. And then they will both return. So the 26th, you're going to have the House returning, and they'll be there for the rest of that week. Okay. And that's just July. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what could potentially happen in July, because this is very, very important. And we've heard politicians talking, mainly Democrats, talking about wanting to move forward with some type of a large bill. Okay. So they've been trying to get this Build Back Better bill through. It didn't go through. And so now they're focused on, okay, what can we get through? What kind of a package can we get through? And so that's what they're going to be focused on. I really hope that the Democrats realize, look, this is their last opportunity and they need to get something. So put something on paper. And I mean, it's kind of, it's like the gun safety legislation. They had to get something done. They absolutely had to get something done. Now, it's not what everyone wanted, but they got something done. Okay, they were able to do something bipartisan. So I'm hoping that they're able to do something when it comes to, even if it's a reconciliation bill, do something and get it passed in July. Okay, so we're really going to be watching this, and Congress is going to be very, very busy. Okay, so some of the things that they've talked about: lowering prescription medication. They've talked about raising taxes on the rich. And then they've also talked about lowering energy costs, a big thing. Lowering energy costs, we're talking about gas, we're talking about electric. So this is something they really need to focus on as well, because that's a big problem. Okay, moving forward here, the child tax credit. We don't know anything about any of this. Okay, child tax credit, gas rebates. Politicians have kind of gone back and forth with these different topics. The gas tax holiday. Now, this is something that President Biden has said he wants. Okay, so he's calling on Congress. He's calling on leadership in Congress to try to get something done when it comes to a gas tax holiday. A gas tax holiday is really not going to drop the price of gas that much. Okay, we're talking about maybe 18 cents. That's for regular unleaded. And when we're talking about diesel, it could be more the neighborhood of about 20 to 24 cents. Now, President Biden is also calling on the states to do the same thing, to suspend their gas tax and for a period of time. So that's he's asking for that as well. Some states have already done it. Okay, some states have already suspended their taxes on gasoline, and that's a good thing. And some states have actually extended their suspension. So they suspended it, let's say, for 2 months, and then now they're doing an extension. So it's not a lot, but it is something to help when it comes to I mean, every penny helps when it comes to the situation of gas right now. All right. Other things. Now we know, and this is going to be something that we'll probably hear in August because they've pretty much stopped talking about it, but the student loan cancellation, diesel fuel shortage. This is something else that we're going to hear some talk about in July. We'll hear some politicians talk about that as well, how to combat against the diesel fuel shortage, because this is a huge problem as well. Diesel fuel is at all-time highs, and that means the cost of everything goes up for all of us, okay? So it's very, very important that that be focused on. Okay, budget. Now, this is something that's in September. This is all you're going to hear about, okay? You're going to hear about the budget. We need to do something about the budget. And most likely they will do a continued resolution because that's what they do all the time. And they'll push it down the road for a couple months, and then they'll revisit it maybe in December, and then probably do another continued resolution. But basically, they need to have the budget for 2023. Okay, that's what this means. They're setting their budget for 2023. They do it in 2022. They have to have it done by the end of September. So if we don't have anything done by the end of September, that means October 1st, government shutdown. Okay, so some other topics here. $2,400 boost for Social Security. Now, I put this down here, and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago as well. This is something that Senator Bernie Sanders wants to get through, him as well as Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren. But when it comes down to it, this is going to be hard to get past. Now, will we see some type of reform for Social Security? I think we will. Will we see it in July? Probably not. It would probably be something that they're going to push down to the end of the year. Because this is hard. This is going to be hard to get done. And if they do it in a bipartisan fashion, it's going to be even harder because you have Republicans on one side saying, yes, let's reform Social Security. We don't want the trust fund to run out of money, but we don't want to expand Social Security. And then you have Democrats on the other side saying, yes, we need to reform Social Security, and we also want to expand Social Security. So that's the difference there. And so we'll have to see what they do in the future, but I don't anticipate seeing anything when it comes to any major legislation or any major move towards legislation. They already have, Senator Bernie Sanders has his plan already. But as far as any movement, I don't anticipate seeing any movement in July. I mean, it would be great if there was. And if there is, I'm going to let you know immediately that that's what's going on. So make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you'll get notified. But as of right now, when it comes to the $2,400 boost for Social Security, I don't anticipate seeing anything in July. I think they're going to be focused mainly on this larger style bill that they can get through. Okay, when I say larger style bill, it will affect people on Social Security and people on Medicare because of the lower prescription medication, which lower prescription medication will affect us all, will help us all. But when it comes down to it, I just don't see them being able to move two bills in the matter of 3 weeks. I think that would be a real stretch. Okay, last thing that I want to talk about here, the filibuster, Roe versus Wade. Now, this is something that President Biden mentioned a few days ago as far as the filibuster, making an exception for moving forward with some type of Roe versus Wade legislation. And that's to codify Roe versus Wade. Okay, and I don't know if I said road before. I might have said road. My voice, as you guys can see, it's a challenge right now because I'm almost there, but I'm still getting over this cold. Okay. Last thing I want to take a look at is we looked at July, so we know what the calendar looks like in July, but I also want to take a look at August, okay, just so you guys understand what they are headed to. So the urgency of getting things done in July is a real thing because if you look on our calendar, we have in July, they have the 3 weeks, okay, so let's drop that down a little bit. So they have the 3 weeks here that they need to get something done. Now, when you go into August, this is where it gets really interesting because you'll have the Senate there for that first week, and then the Senate will go on recess for the rest of the month. But guess what? The House, they're going to be on recess the whole month. They're not returning until September, okay? And when they return, it's going to be September. Actually, the House returns on September 13th, okay? The Senate will actually return on September 6th. So that's a long time. Okay, now this is for people in the House of Representatives. They're all running for re-election, so this is their time to go back and campaign. Okay, so that's the reason why we have this big break in August, and so this break is very serious for them. So they are going to take this break because they want to get back to their home districts and do their campaigning. Now, when it comes to the Senate, there's only a third that's running. And so what that means is you have senators that aren't running for re-election. And so the urgency for them to get back to their home districts is not the same as people in the House. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Just looking at this calendar here, we know that if the House returns on the 13th, they're all, this whole time, they're all going to be focused on, guess what? They're going to be focused on the budget, okay? That's what they're going to be focused on because they have to do something so they can either do that continued resolution, so they'll have a couple more months before a government shutdown. But you're going to hear it's going to come down to the last minute because that's the way it always does. You're going to have politicians going back and forth, and then finally they'll do a continued resolution, and then they'll move it forward for another couple of months. That's just, we see this every year. It's ridiculous how politicians are. They can't just come up with something and say, look, this is going to be our budget for 2023. They always have to wait till the last minute, and you hear the talks of the government shutdown, and then they find a way to do a continuing resolution and kick the can down the road. But that's what we're looking at when it comes down to it. So that is our calendar. I just wanted to go over that, and I'll keep doing the calendar at least once a month, and we can talk about the different legislation that we've heard about and what we think could potentially happen. So in July, I think the real focus in July is going to be, let's put together a bill that has something when it comes to lowering prescription medication and doing some type of a tax hike on the rich. I think that's the main focus in July, and that's what we're going to hear a lot about. They're also going to talk about the Roe versus Wade. That's going to be something that's in there as well, and some type of carve-out filibuster, however they're going to figure it out, that's going to also be talked about in July. When they return. So if you guys have any questions, post them down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.